All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to assume everybody can hear me, so we'll go ahead and get started here. I'm going to go ahead and start with Mike M. And Mike M says he's getting left shoulder pain in his swing, and he's wondering what he might be doing wrong. I'm not really sure. I mean, that's not really a very common thing. It's hard to say exactly what could be going wrong there. But what I would recommend doing is if you are feeling any pain or discomfort, I mean, just golf in general, you're going to have injuries. Any repetitive sport that you're playing a lot, if you're having some sort of pain, it may not even be golf related. It may be completely related to something else. And because you use your left shoulder in the golf swing, your left shoulder hurts when you swing. So you're probably going to need to go see a medical professional about that. Actually, legally, I can't really give you any advice as far as how to fix it and things like that. So I'd make sure go see a doctor, medical professional regarding that, and hopefully it'll get better soon, and you can get out there and start playing. But as far as things in the golf swing, there really isn't anything in the golf swing that I can really think of right off the top of my head that could be going on that would be causing left shoulder pain. That's not really a very common injury. Usually the biggest injuries are back injuries and wrist injuries. A little bit of elbow tendonitis, you see that quite a bit, but it's just part of the repetitive nature of the game. Anybody who plays the game quite a bit, practices a lot, swings a lot, you're going to have those kinds of injuries and things like that. Our body's just not meant to swing a golf club, and have that same motion over and over and over again. All right. So Alfonso F says, my question is, when I am making the downswing, I tend to cock my wrath to create lag. And when the ball ends up going to the right, how can I rectify this problem? I think he's talking about his wrist, not his wrath. But yeah, so as you go up to the top of the swing, you're going to be, setting the wrist a little bit. So usually you got about a 90-degree angle about right here. And then as you continue, you're continuing to generate lag, and you want to have the sharper angle here. Right? I think what he's talking about is he's coming into impact, he's opening up the face and leaving out to the right, assuming that he's right-handed. So what you want to do is use what's called the move on the website. The move actually consists of two things. The first part, it sounds like you may be doing, which is the shallowing out the club. So also make sure that you're shallowing out the club. And basically what that means is if you're looking from down the line, if you pause the swing at about this point in the downswing, this is going to be about when that lead arm is parallel to the ground. So that's going to be about right there. You want to look and see where this butt end of the club is pointing. And you want to use some sort of analysis app like V1 Golf. This is what we use, the instructors use here on the website for swing reviews. But it's a completely free app. You can download it for either Apple or Android devices. But if you use that app, film your swing, draw that line straight down from the butt end of the club, and look and see where that butt end of the club is pointing. You want that to be pointing either at the golf ball or a little bit outside of the golf ball would even be a little bit better. But if it's inside the golf ball, that means that you're coming down steep. And what's going to happen is if you continue to move the club in this direction, you're going to put that club right into the ground, right behind the golf ball. So because we're good athletes, we're going to tend to want to get this club to drop down and come back down on plane. In order to do that, we're going to stand up and things like that. So you want to make sure that you're shallowing out that club nicely. And then the second part of the move is squaring of that face earlier. So if you look at my top of my left hand, it's about square with the leading edge of this club. If I turn my wrist down, you can see how that's squaring the club face, or it's closing the club face. So that's the feeling that you want to have as you're coming down the downswing, is that you're squaring that club face. So you're generating the lag and you're squaring the club face, and that's going to allow you to come into impact with forward shaft lean and a square club face. So I'd recommend going to the move section and working through those drills. Start from the very beginning, work through the drills. To get to the move section, just click on the house icon. That'll take you to the home page. That's at the top of the page. There's a little house there. If you click on that, that's going to take you to the home page. Just go down. You can see all the courses, and you can click on the move and get to work on that and start getting that club face squaring a little bit better. So Alfonso's talking about cocking my left wrist. Yep, so I got that. So Chris J says, I stay connected on the backswing, but have trouble getting to the lead side and end up running out of room and throwing the club using arms and hands to catch up. Arms outrace my body and ball pulls to the left. So first of all, as far as staying connected in the swing, the only time in the swing where it's important to be connected is at impact. So at the top of the swing, you actually want to get disconnected. You want to get your arms kind of out away from your body, because if I were to keep my arms really stuck to my body and try to stay connected, I can only get to about like that. I'm not really going to be able to get much. I'm not going to be able to get much freedom of movement to be able to generate speed. I'm not going to be able to create space to generate speed. So go ahead and let your arms disconnect at the top of the swing, and also in the follow through. You can't come through in the follow through and stay connected all the way through. Otherwise, you're really going to be stopping your momentum as you come into the ball. So that's the first piece of it. You only want to stay connected at impact. As you're coming into impact here, that's the only place where it matters to kind of have your arms kind of connected to your body. So that's it. That's the only place where it really matters. So keep that in mind as far as, I see a lot of people, I have a lot of students, especially I've seen a lot of students that come to the distance clinic and they have swings that are like this. They go up to the top and they're like this. Well, they're trying to stay connected. They've been taught that they have to stay connected. But if you do that, you cannot get much speed from this position. You got to go ahead and let your arms raise up. You're not going to see any tour players like this. None. You need to get up, get those arms disconnecting from your body so that you can create speed. So that'd be the first thing. I would tell you. As far as the arms outracing the body, it sounds like you're just not using your legs enough, not using the momentum of a good weight shift and things like that. So you're going to want to work on getting a nice good weight shift. So go ahead and let the arms disconnect from the body at the top of the swing so that you can create speed. And then use what's called the step drill to help you use your lower body a little bit more. So in that step drill, I think I go over this in every single office hours just because it is something I think a lot of people struggle with. And it's also really the number one drill out there that I know of for sequencing and for a good weight shift. So what you're doing in this drill is you're starting out with your feet together. And then as you start this backswing, you are stepping forward. So you're stepping forward, you're forcing your momentum to move forward toward the target. And then as you're reaching the top of the swing, your foot is landing and planting into the ground. And that allows you to have pressure in your lead foot. And then from there, you can really push into the ground to get your body to rotate open, lead with the lower body. So your lower body is turning, and then your thorax is turning, and then your shoulders start turning, and then the arms and the club go. It's got to be in that sequence there to not have the club just racing out in front of the body. You have to have everything continue to accelerate through. And the step drill is going to kind of force you to do that. So I'd recommend working on what's called the step drill. It's in lots of videos on the website, actually. So if you go, the best video, not necessarily the best video, but the video that I know of that I'm thinking of in my head right now where I know the step drill is in, it's a video on how to start the downswing. So if you go to the search engine, if you look in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, about any page on the website, if you click the search box, you can search any keyword on the website and you'll find videos on it if you're looking for anything else, for example. But if you just search downswing, about the third video down, there'll be the video on how to start the downswing. Clay goes over the step drill in that video. You'll be able to see exactly what's going on there. And he'll talk more about that downswing sequence and things like that as well. So I think that will really help you, Chris, to get things moving in the right direction for you. As far as pulling to the left, I mean, that's going to happen when your arms, when you're not really getting to your lead side, you're kind of hanging back and you throw your arms at it. A lot of times your face ends up coming closed. A lot of times you come over the top. So getting that weight shift and getting things turning a little bit better, that's going to help you to shallow the club out. That's going to help you to get to your lead side so you can come in with a square club face instead of having the arms race out in front of the body with that face closing down. So definitely check out that video. I think it will help you out quite a bit. But yeah, it's the third video down, I think, when you search downswing. In the thumbnail of the video, there's some yellow lettering. It says downswing or something like that. That's the video that you want to help you with that. All right, let's keep on moving along here. So Rufus says, going back several generations, one like of my ancestors have awful internal hip rotation. I'm with you on that one. We might be related. We all walk with a pronounced toe out supination gait. My internal rotation is maybe 20 degrees, whereas my external rotation is almost 180 degrees. Wow, that's a lot of... So you can turn your foot almost backwards behind you. That's crazy. Plus, I naturally stand on the outside of my foot. I know that I have to have a toe out stance. Anything else that should be done? Any advantages to this? So not really. I mean, really just turning your toes out is definitely going to be a good one. And then lifting, just allowing your feet to be mobile so that you can move your body. So basically what Rufus is talking about here, in case some of you aren't familiar, is essentially he's talking about the internal rotation. So I kind of have the same thing that Rufus is talking about, internal rotation. That's where you're rotating your leg inward. So you can see if I hold my leg out like that, I maybe have 20 degrees of internal rotation, just like Rufus is. That's why I was saying that we might be related somewhere down the road. But if you look at, he's talking about external rotation. Now I've got good external rotation. That's probably, 60 degrees or 70 degrees or something like that. He's talking his external rotation is 180 degrees. So that means that he could take his foot and basically just turn it straight backwards, which is crazy. But I definitely can't do anything like that. But if you have awful internal rotation with your legs, when your hips here, so that's talking about turning your feet in like that. The reason why that is important, because in the backswing, when you are turning your hips, your leg is actually internally rotating. So if you have a limitation in your internal rotation, you want to angle these legs out. And the same thing in your lead leg. Now you might have a little bit different internal rotation in each leg. Most people are about the same, but you might be a little bit different in each leg. But in the lead leg, same thing, getting the hips open at impact and getting rotated all the way through, that can be an internal rotation issue. So you want to be able to open up both legs. So I have this set up to the golf ball with my both feet flared out quite a bit like this. And that's completely fine. And it helps me be a little bit mobile. This, you're going to see a lot of tour players like Rory McIlroy. He's kind of in this position here. Sure, that's more aesthetically pleasing. That looks great. But if I were to be in this position right here, it would really limit how much I can turn my hips. And that can limit how much I can turn my shoulders and get club head speed. And then in the downswing, that's really going to limit how much I can really open up my body into impact. It may make me slide. It may make me not turn my hips at all and flip the club at it. So in order to be able to get some rotation as I'm coming into impact, I've got to open up that lead leg and that trail leg. So if you have internal rotation issues, a way that you can kind of test that is you can kind of set up like this on one leg, and you can have a club on the ground, kind of measure it. So you can use a 6-iron. The lie angle on a 6-iron is going to give you about the right degrees to tell you if you have a limitation or not. But basically, if you have a 6-iron kind of angled away like that, you can have a club right here, and then you can rotate. That would be external rotation, but you can rotate kind of this way and see if your hips can match that angle there as you're going back. And that will tell you if you have good internal. Typically, you want to be around 60 degrees. You want to be able to rotate. If you can't get about 60 degrees, then that's telling you that there's going to be a little bit of limitation there. Most people are not really in that area. So I would just recommend about anybody, especially if you're older, struggling with flexibility somewhat, just angle those out a little bit. And then the other thing is just to let this heel come up off the ground a little bit. So in the backswing, when you're going up, go ahead and let that heel come off the ground so that you can rotate more in the backswing. Now it's more of a external rotation issue, but if you have internal or external things going on, that's definitely what you're going to want to do there. So sounds like you're doing everything that you can, Rufus, there. Like I said, you can go and you can angle those feet out. I would say up to 45 degrees. You can have them angled out like that. If you get too much angled out, more than that, you might have some balance issues where you might be kind of falling forward or falling backwards. But I like 45 degrees. That's the maximum that I would go to help you get that internal rotation. And since Rufus, you don't have an external rotation issue, I mean, you may not even need to lift the heel to get where you are. But most people, if they have internal rotation issues, they're also going to have external rotation. It's just not a flexible joint for a lot of people. And if that's the case, you can only do what you're capable of. So go ahead and let the heel come up. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you see a lot of tour players doing it. Look at old swings of Jack Nicklaus, Bubba Watson right now. You're going to see lots of players that are lifting that heel off the ground. Francesco Molinari, he's lifting that heel off the ground on all of his swings. It's not just the swings where he's trying to get power. I was watching him hit wedges in the last tournament, and he was – or the last tournament they played in, and he's lifting that lead heel off the ground on a 60-yard wedge shot. So it's just a matter of getting the maximum range of motion that you can get. Everybody's built a little bit differently, so don't be afraid to do things to help you get your maximum range of motion. All right, so Frank B says, is the club swinging freely like a catapult? Are the wrist swinging it? It's both. I mean, your arms, everything is swinging the club. Everything that you're doing with your body is to put force into this handle. So it's not just the gravity and everything. If you're just kind of letting gravity take the club and swing the club, you're just not going to get a lot of speed from it. You got to be using the lower body to generate momentum. So it's actually a great video on the website where Clay talks about the momentum train. He's talking about you got a train going 60 miles per hour, and then you got another train on top of that that's going 60 miles per hour. Then you got another train on top of that that's going 60 miles per hour. And all together, that train on top is going 180 miles per hour. Well, that's because it's momentum's being built by each chain in the body. So the hips are going, the rib cage, the thorax is going, and then the shoulders go. It's building this chain reaction that's allowing you to put as much force into the handle as you can. Now, 80-85% of the speed you can get from your arms, but in order to get a maximum amount of speed, the most amount of speed that you're capable of getting, you have to use the lower body to create momentum. And you also, in order to get the proper sequence to get the club to release out in front, to be able to get forward shaft lean and compression, because you can swing all arms and you can get 80-85% of the speed. I can sit here, I won't turn my chest or anything. I'll just swing all arms in front of my body, and I bet you I can get about 80-85% of the speed just from that. But I tell you what, I'm not going to be able to get forward shaft lean because that club has to release right there. So the hands basically have to. I can't just go like that because that's I'm not going to be able to get as much speed. So in order to get full speed, full extension speed, that club has to release early. So in order to get that maximum amount of speed where you're using your lower body, that's going to allow you to get that club to release out in front. You have to use the lower body to create momentum. So go check out that momentum train video. I think it's in the it might be in the straight line release section. But if you just search momentum train, that video is a really good one to kind of help you get the feeling of what you're trying to do. So in that video, Clay puts, a alignment stick through his belt loops, puts something across his shoulders so you can see kind of what's happening. So the belt loops are going, and then the shoulders start to go, and then the club starts to go, so that you can understand exactly what the train is. Now, each one of them are firing, split seconds apart, but that's the sequence that you want to have there to help you get the maximum amount of speed. So to answer your question, you're using everything. It's not just your arms swinging. It's not just your wrists doing that. It's everything. It's each piece is building momentum onto the next piece, which is allowing you to get more speed and more speed. And it's also allowing you to sequence properly so that you can get forward shaft lean and release that club out in front. That's also going to help with your ground contact. It's going to help with divots. It's going to help with hitting the ball, on the center of the club face instead of hitting really thin shots all the time. So all of those things are going to be helped by getting a proper sequencing. So definitely take a look at that. Take a look at that video. I think that will really, really help you out quite a bit. I believe we're with Kenneth L. Says, Q, can you give a quick tutorial on the downswing starting with feet? Is that where it starts? You start with your hips turning forward while you're still turning your shoulders back. No, not necessarily. So basically what's happening is that as you're getting to the top of the swing, so about from right here, you're going to go look at a lot of tour players. Go on YouTube and look at tour players' golf swings from face on. And what you're going to see is as they're getting to about right here, you're going to see how they start to get momentum moving this way. Now, their hips aren't turning. It's just their momentum. They're loaded up here. Their pressure, continuing to put pressure on their back foot, and they're getting loaded up, but their momentum is moving in this direction. So that way, at the top of the swing, boom, I'm getting ready to switch directions. Now I have pressure in that lead foot. And then from there, I can really push into the ground. And now my hips are starting the downswing. My hips are starting. My thorax is starting. Then my shoulders are starting. Then the club is starting. And my wrists are starting. And then the club is being thrown out in front of my body. And that's all started by the sequence of the lower body. So that step drill that I was talking about earlier, Kenneth, that's the one that you're going to want to go to get that proper feeling of everything coming through. And they're all happening split seconds apart. I mean, it's boom, 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 but that's the sequence that it has to happen. If you're going from here, you don't have the pressure into the ground. You're not starting to rotate your hips, and you start down with the hands, it's over. You're already going to flip the club. There's no way you're going to be able to release that club out in front. You're going to be flipping it because the hands, there's no momentum. It's already just flying in front of the body. So you have to have the hips to start going before in order to make that happen. In order to do that, I'd work on that step drill. If you go to how to start the downswing, that's the one that you're going to want to go to work on getting that proper sequence going much better. All right. So Kevin V said, notice that Clay is placing the ball directly in the middle when he swung the pitching wedge. Should I do the same for all clubs? So as far as ball position is concerned, when you're looking on camera, one thing to keep in mind is that camera angles can make the ball look a lot different place than what it actually is. So keep that in mind. But just in general, ball placement wise, it's really what works best for you. But I can give you a generality of what a good ball position is. So pretty much with all clubs off the turf, a good starting point is, if I grab a ball here, a good starting point would be straight down from the lead ear. So if I'm in my position here, so you can see this is just a little bit ahead of middle. So I'm kind of scrunched up here to get everything on the camera. But you can see just a little bit ahead of middle is a good place to be. And that's pretty much straight down from my left ear when I'm in my setup position. Now with a wedge, this is just personally what I like to do. This is going to be a good general ball position for pretty much all clubs that you're hitting off of the turf. But for a wedge, I like to move it a ball back. And that allows me to get a little bit more. That pretty much puts it pretty close to the middle of my stance. That allows me to get that ball first contact, hit down on the ball a little bit more. It's just where I feel a little bit more comfortable with it. Now for you, you might feel a little bit more comfortable with it ahead. You might feel a little bit more comfortable with it a little bit more behind. But either way, whatever's giving you whatever's allowing you to put the club in the right position, present the club to the golf ball in the right way, that's going to be the right thing for you. Now what I do, so that would be wedges, right? So this would be pretty much any normal club. Now for the high irons, hybrids, 3-wood, I'll put a ball ahead of that. And these are shots that are hanging off the turf. So it's just a little bit further ahead in my stance. And that allows me to get So still be able to hit down on the ball, but come into the ball very, very shallow so that I can get a nice high launch on it. Because those shots, those clubs are a little bit harder to get up in the air. And that's just what works best for me. It might work better for you to put it further back. It might work better for you to put it further forward. Now, hitting stuff with a driver, hitting balls with a driver or a 3-wood off of a tee, what I like to do is I like to play it straight down from the lead shoulder. So you've probably heard a lot of people say inside of the left foot. Well, that's kind of where this is for me because I have a, standard-ish, shoulder wide-ish stance. But if you have a narrow stance, putting that ball on the inside of your foot, that would be about right there. That's too far back in your stance with a driver. I like straight down from that lead shoulder because that puts it pretty much in the right position no matter how wide or narrow your stance is. So if you think about it, if I have a wide stance, so this would be like a Rory McIlroy or Brooks Koepka type of stance. So very, very wide stance. If I put that on the inside of my foot, that's just too far forward up in the stance. It's going to be hard for me not to pull that ball because my path is probably going to be moving left and my face is going to be closing down. So I'm typically going to hit some pulls from that kind of position. So I like to move that back to where it's pretty much straight down from my lead shoulder. So that's what I recommend. Like I said, you can go ball forward, ball back, but that's a good starting point for ball placement. It's really about what gives you the best results, what allows you to give this club, present this club to the golf ball in the best possible way. Everybody's built a little bit differently. Everybody has a little bit of a different way that they present the ball to the club or present the club to the ball. So whatever works best for you, just go out there and play around with it and see what works best. All right. All right, so Randy E says, will this swing method work without a great amount of lag? I struggle with generating lag, but I feel like my hips and shoulders rotate pretty well together. So like I was saying, everyone is built a little bit differently. Everyone's going to have different and varying amounts of lag. If you look on tour, you look at someone like a Phil Mickelson, a Sergio Garcia. You look at guys, they're generating. I mean, you watch them in the downswing. It looks like the club's about to hit their shoulders in the downswing. That's how much lag that they're generating. Everybody's built a little bit differently. But if you look at someone like a JB Holmes, he's got that club pretty kind of in this position. So the difference between a JB Holmes and a Sergio Garcia is like that. Huge difference. But they're both generating some lag. So as long as you're generating some lag, you're going to be in good shape. As long as you are not getting to the top of the swing and releasing the club from there, as long as you're not doing that, you're going to be in good shape. Now, obviously, generating a little bit more lag may help you to generate more speed. Could be something to work on in the future, but if you're hitting the ball well, you're getting a good amount of speed, you're getting the speed that you want to get, and you're able to control the club doing what you're doing, then more power to you. That's going to be the best way for you to swing the club. So, like I said, everyone's got varying amounts of how much they can generate lag by wrist, how much they can move their wrist, or how much momentum they have going back in the backswing to generate lag. So, first of all, we can go over real quick what generates that appearance of lag. So, pretty much everybody can only bring back. So if I hold it straight out in front of me, straight out vertical, pretty much everybody can only go back about 20 degrees. So if I'm going straight up and down, I'm keeping my wrist flat, by the way. If I do that, really, really cut my wrist, I can bring it back more. But if I keep my wrist flat, so you can see I have a flat wrist there. If I keep my wrist in a neutral position and angle it back like that, maybe 20 degrees, 15 degrees is what I can do. The average person that's probably about average. Now, some people can do a little bit more, and those are people that might be able to, like a Phil Mickelson or a Sergio Garcia. They might have more flexible wrists. So that's one thing that helps give the appearance of lag in the downswing there. The next thing is the shallowing of the club. So if you look here, if I'm talking about shallowing of the club, that's doing this with the shaft. That's rotating. If you're a right-handed golfer, that's turning the doorknob to the right. So if I get that maximum amount and then I shallow out the club, now look at how much sharper that angle looks. It went from 20 degrees to probably 35, 40 degrees there. So that's the other piece. And then the last piece is momentum. So if you watch, if I bring the club back going this way, I'll shallow it and I'll bring it back this way. So if I shallow it, maximum wrist angle, and then have the momentum going that way, look at how much sharper that angle gets. I'm really sharpening that angle, and that's just from the momentum of the club going that way. So that's what gives you the appearance of lag. So if you don't have some of those pieces, if it feels, because a lot of people don't like to have a lot of momentum of the club head going this way because it feels like they don't have control of the club, and that's completely fine. You can set your wrist a little bit more and not have as much momentum moving in that direction. You won't generate as much lag, but you may feel like you have a lot more control of the club. That's completely fine. It's just not going to be, you're not going to have as much speed usually as someone who's allowing that momentum to generate more lag. And that's completely fine. If I would much rather have a lot more control of the golf club and be able to control my shots than have absolutely no control of the club and having a little bit more speed. So when we're not talking like you're going to be gaining 20 miles an hour from that, it's a couple miles per hour. So there's that. And then, some people don't have the flexibility and some people aren't shallowing it as much. So that might be something that you look at in your swing. If you look at your swing and you are coming down and you're pretty vertical in the downswing. So if you're kind of in this position right here, you're more vertical. Well, shallowing that out, now look at all the difference. I have a lot more lag now than if I was more straight up and down. So that'd be the only thing that I would look at for you, is to make sure that you are shallowing out the club. And that's going to be from the move section, working on that tennis racket drill. It's a really good one in there, but working through the move, making sure that you're shallowing out the club, that's going to help you get the more of an appearance of lag there. Lastly, there are a lot of videos on the website for shallowing out the club. If you just search shallow on the website, in the upper right-hand corner of the search box there, you'll find lots of videos there to help you work on that. All right. So Mark T says, during the backswing, should I be allowing the shoulders to fully rock back as if for a very long putt? Does this occur in early part of the backswing? Let me read that again, Mark T. So during the backswing, should I be allowing the shoulders to fully rock back as if for a very long putt? So I assume that Mark T is talking about in the actual full swing and not in putting. As far as in the full swing, I would allow your shoulders to turn as much as you can, because that's going to allow you to get that full shoulder turn. So that's going to be in the power turn section, really getting that nice full shoulder turn. This is one of the biggest keys to speed, to be able to generate club head speed and distance, is right here, getting these shoulders to turn. If you're just kind of picking up the club and not turning your shoulders, so you're just kind of in this position right here, you're not going to be able to generate a lot of speed from there. You want to get to where you're really turning those shoulders and really able to generate some speed in the downswing. That's what I'd recommend doing. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, I'm not sure about the long, as if for a long putt or anything like that. Not really sure what you mean there. But yes, you want to be turning your shoulders as much as you can. That's what Clay talks about in the power turn section. So if you're struggling with speed and distance, then you're going to want to work through that course, the power turn section, to get that in much better order. All right. So George S. says, what is the normal club head speed for a 73-year-old male? My best speed is in the low 80s, and I can't seem to improve and stay in control. So yeah, you're pretty much right. I would say in the average there for an amateur golfer in their 60s is about 85 miles per hour. In a study that I saw, and usually it goes down, 3 or 4 miles per hour for every decade you are on average. So if you're in the low 80s, that's pretty much right in the average. If you're talking the best players in the world, you're probably lower than the best players in the world. So I believe it was about 102 miles per hour for those in their 60s. Professional players playing in their 60s. I believe it was right in that area, 102. So 99, 98 would probably be what would be top players in the world. So you're better. You're probably in that average for the amateur. If you're looking to raise your club head speed, I'd recommend number one, going to our new course, the 20-minute distance fix. And it's just 20 minutes a day, three times a week. So there's two outdoor drills that take 20 minutes tops. And then there's one indoor drill that takes 20 minutes. And if you can get more in, then that's even better. But that's all that it's a 3-week course. We saw people gaining 20 some miles per hour. So going from 80 some to 100 and some, it's not out of normal, out of the realm of possibility for you to raise your club head speed up that much. So I highly recommend going through that course. But really the number one, there's really two big things. And I just talked about it with Mark T's question. There's two big things that give you club head speed. Number one is creating that large range of motion. So getting that big shoulder turn. So if you're getting older, turn those legs out, because a lot of times what we see with older people is that they don't turn their hips very much. They have less hip flexibility. So turning your feet out a little bit will allow you to have a larger range of motion with your hips. Allow that left heel, that lead heel, to come off the ground in the backswing to allow everything to get that biggest range of motion. So getting the biggest range of motion that you can is going to help you to get more club head speed. And then the last piece is what's called neural adaptation. This is talked about in our 20-minute distance fix. And that's basically just swinging as hard as you can, getting your body used to swinging hard. It's like if you have someone who's a runner, a sprinter, when they sprint downhill, they can actually sprint faster because the hill is kind of pushing them to go faster. They're running faster than their body's really capable of doing. So they're getting some neural adaptation there to train their body to move faster, and they're recruiting larger muscles in order to do that. And that's allowing them to swing faster or run faster. Same thing goes in the golf swing. If you're swinging as hard as you can, then you're training your body to get used to that. And that's going to allow you to use those big muscles to swing the golf club, those fast twitch muscles, which move a lot faster to swing the golf club, those type X muscles. So that's what I'd recommend doing those two things. But there's lots of things in that 20-minute distance fix. We work on getting a big shoulder turn, getting the right sequencing down, getting some good lag. There's all sorts of things in there to help you gain some club head speed. So I highly recommend. It's not going to come in one day at the range. It happens over time. It takes time. Trust me. Like, I've been working on speed training. If you've never worked on speed training before, you're going to get some gains quickly, but then you're going to kind of level out. But you're going to get little gains as you move along, as you keep working on it. But you got to keep working on it to keep getting those. So highly recommend working through that program. It's helped a lot of people gain a lot of distance. So go ahead and go check that out, and I think you'll enjoy it. Not to mention, it's very fun. I think it's a lot more fun to work on speed training. I like hitting the ball far. So to me, it's a lot more fun to work on speed training than to work on hitting draws and fades and high and low, even though that's probably what's going to help my game the most. But I just like working on that speed training the most. For most people, working on speed training is going to be the best thing. A lot of people don't look at speed training as a way to be more consistent as well. We actually, for new members, we have the survey when you first sign up, and we ask people, what are you looking for, distance or consistency? Well, it's kind of crazy. Overwhelming majority of people say consistency, and I was a little bit surprised by that, just based on what I know about golf and what's really the number one contributor to shooting lower scores. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that getting more distance is actually going to make you more consistent too. The reason for that is that, if you're someone who's struggling with distance, maybe you're hitting driver hybrid into a lot of holes. Well, if you gain more distance, you're going to be hitting driver 6-iron or driver 7-iron into a lot of holes instead of that hybrid. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm going to be hitting my 7-iron a lot closer to the hole, or a lot closer to wherever my target is, than my hybrid. So just thinking about it in that sense, it's going to make you more consistent. So I think pretty much everyone should work on distance training. There are very, very few people that would not benefit from getting more distance. And a lot of people have gone through the program and actually say that they hit the ball even better now, because a lot of times when people are so worried about consistency is that they don't swing hard and they try to guide the club. So it's really, you're double killing yourself, because when you try to guide the club, it's bad news. You're going to not be very consistent at all. You're not being an athlete. And then when you're not swinging hard, you're not hitting the ball very far. So swing hard, be an athlete, try to be more athletic with it, use your true athleticism, and that's going to allow you to be more consistent with the club as well. So highly recommend going through that 20-minute distance fix and working through those. So haven't had a question in a while, so go ahead and post your questions if you got questions. I just thought I would talk a little bit about the 20-minute distance fix while we had a little there. Well, there we go. So we got some questions here coming in. So what brand of golf shoe do you recommend? So I have two brands that I really like. Everybody's feet are a little bit different. So I've used a lot of different golf shoes. So FootJoy has always been a really good golf shoe. I've always used those. I think they're really, really great. They last a long time, usually last a couple seasons. They are kind of on the expensive side sometimes. Personally, I like the DryJoys. I think those are really good. I haven't had a pair of FootJoys in a while. Lately, I've been using Adidas golf shoes because I've just found really good deals on them. And with Adidas golf shoes, they're typically a little more narrow than your typical golf shoe, and they seem to run a little bit small. So I always have to get a size more, and I have to get the wide version in order for them to fit my feet. I actually have these ones here that I'm wearing are they're the Adapure. So these are pretty good looking shoes. I like these quite a bit. They're very, very comfortable. These are the soft spike ones. I typically won't wear these out on the course very much. If you're looking, if you want to have really good traction, I wouldn't recommend using the soft spike shoes. I'd recommend using the ones that have, the spikeless shoes is what I meant. I recommend using the ones with the soft spikes that they'll grab the turf for you. I have some Adidas Boost, I think they're called, or Tour 360 or something like that I use out on the course. These are just the ones that I wear in the house and kind of wear on the golf course when I'm teaching and stuff like that, just because they're super comfortable and you can hit balls and stuff with it. It's just spikeless shoes. Typically, they just don't have as much traction as your typical golf shoe. So those are the ones that I like. I've tried Nike shoes. They just don't fit my feet very well. I always like to look at them. They're good looking shoes, but they just don't fit my feet very well. So I usually don't get those. I've tried a couple pairs of those that they just didn't fit my feet very well. Echo, I've tried those. I like those. But the pair I liked, they were pretty comfortable, but I just don't really like the look of them that much usually. Trying to think of what other. Those are pretty much all the golf shoes that I've tried for the most part. But yeah, I like the Adidas shoes as long as you're getting the wide. Like you might have narrow feet, might be a better fit for you. So, but yeah, FootJoy is always a good one. In fact, my next pair will probably be FootJoy for sure. All right. So Mark T says, I think that you mentioned previously that as you approach the top of the backswing, your body should have shifted slightly backward as part of the weight shift to the left. Is that an inch or two or something more? So yeah, it's your momentum's just moving slightly. Just go on YouTube and look at tour players. You can see exactly what I'm talking about. As they're going up to the top of the swing, as they're getting to about right here is at the top of the swing, you're going to see how if you draw a line, In fact, I would draw a line on their hip right here on the outside of their hip. And you can see how they're going to start moving. And it's like an inch or two. It's like what you're saying, but you can clearly see that they're moving in this direction as they're reaching the top of the swing. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not continuing to load up at the top of the swing. They're still loading up. It doesn't mean that all their weight is here at the top of the swing. That's not what that means. It means that as they're going up to the top, it's like when you take a step, when you're stepping forward, right? You're stepping forward. My momentum is moving in this direction. I'm stepping forward, but my pressure, all the pressure that I'm putting into the ground is in that trail foot. I'm pushing off that way. So it's kind of the same thing that's going on in the golf swing. As I'm going up to the top, I'm building up pressure as I'm starting to move this way. And then at the very top of the swing, now I have all that pressure. I have a lot more pressure in my lead foot, and I can use that to really rotate the body and be able to get into a good position. So you can go and look for yourself. Go look on YouTube, search any golfer that you want, and you're going to see varying amounts of it. But typically you're going to see, it's going to be like an inch or two that they're moving before the club switches directions. So as they're getting to about right here in the backswing, you're going to see they're going to start kind of like basically going this way just a little bit at the start of the swing. They're definitely not continuing to go that way. And then at the start of the swing, all of their pressure is still on this foot. No, they're getting here, and then boom, I'm here, and now I can use my lower body effectively. So go check that out. So we got about 15 minutes left. Hopefully y'all got some more questions. We'll go ahead and get them answered. And if not, I will say tomorrow, just real quick here, tomorrow, since it's a holiday in the United States here for you out of international folks, it is a national holiday, Independence Day in America. So we will not have office hours tomorrow. We will resume office hours on Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So, no office hours tomorrow. And I'll put a note in the on the office hours page when I set it up for the next day, so that everybody knows. But no office hours on tomorrow in observance of Independence Day here in the United States. So if you got any more questions, go ahead and let me know. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and check some emails here. I'll answer. We got about 13 minutes left in here, so go ahead and ask your questions if you got them, and we'll get them answered. I'll get them answered. All right, so Roy F. here says, you and I are working on my release. I think I have confused releasing lag with delaying my hit. I think I am trying to hold and hit. Can you talk about letting go from max lag position? This feels very out of control for me. So you never really want to feel like you are holding on to anything. You always want to feel like you are generating lag. So this angle is sharpening, and then it sharpens to a certain point, and then you are releasing as hard as you can out in front. That's basically what most tour players feel like, and that comes from proper sequencing. That's why, Roy, we've worked on that step drill a little bit, because a lot of times what's happening is you're not using your lower body enough. You sent me a driver swing from the golf course, which was different than the swings, was different than any swings that you sent me from the driving range. But I remember that swing you sent me from the golf course. You were on your back leg when you were impacting the golf ball with your driver. So when you do that, you're not using any of your lower body, and you just have to throw your arms at it, and that's going to cause you to release the club early. So you got to get to your lead side and get that sequencing, build momentum with your lower body to feel like you really got to release that club out in front, and you're releasing it as hard as you can. So if you're feeling like you have to delay, you have to hold on to something, that means that you're not using your lower body correctly. You need to feel like you are generating and then releasing as hard as you can. So that step drill, go back and work on that step drill. If you can't remember that step drill, you can go to the search downswing on the website. how to start the downswing, or shoot me an email and I can send you the video where Clay talks about that. But yeah, if your lag is just fine, you're generating lag really well in your swing. It's just a matter of you're getting to this point and you're not using your lower body. You're not getting a good weight shift to your lead side. So what's happening is you're kind of hanging back and you've got to throw the arms at it when you do that. So you got to be able to use that lower body, create momentum, and feel. If you do that, then it's going to feel like releasing as hard as you can is going to be out here instead of here, if that makes sense. So you got to get your body opening up and angled away in that right position to be able to do that. So that comes from proper sequencing in the swing. All right, so again, got about 9-10 more minutes here. Get your questions in and we'll get them answered. Gerald S. says, many of the courses I play have tree-lined roughs. I struggle to hit low shots onto the fairway. Any suggestions or videos? Also, how to fade toward the green. So first of all, as far as low shots are concerned, you're gonna want to be working on forward shaft lean. So if you look at your swing on video, your shaft may kind of be in this position at impact. You need to get that shaft leaning forward to take loft off the club face, which is going to allow you to hit the ball lower. So there's all kinds of reasons why people are releasing the club early and not having forward shaft lean at impact. One of them is casting the club. One of them is kind of like what Roy was talking about. You know, he's generating lag. He's not casting the club at all, but he's just not getting good sequencing. He's not getting his weight to his lead side, getting his body in the right position to be able to release the club out in front. So proper weight shift, proper sequencing. That's going to be, so if you're casting the club, top speed lag section, that's where you're going to want to go to work on that. You're just going to have to look at your swing on camera to be able to see those things. And if you're not really sure what to look for, you know, it's a little overwhelming. You never looked at your swing before. We do have instructors to help you with that. Roy is in my Unlimited Swing Review program. I'm working with him right now to pinpoint these things that he needs to work on to improve his ball striking. You know, we can do the same with you. If you're interested, go to the Get a Review. At the top of the page, there's a Get a Review icon up there. If you click on that, that'll take you to the Swing Review page. It'll explain kind of what it's all about and all those things. So take a look at that. But top speed lag, you know, if you're casting the club, if the club is releasing from the top, that's going to be the top speed lag course. If you are not properly sequencing your body, you want to look at that video that I just mentioned to Roy, that how to start the downswing video. Search downswing on the website. Third video down will be the one that you want. And then also shallowing out the club. That's also the big thing. Now, there's all kinds of other things that can be causing you to release the club early, but these are the three biggest ones. Coming down steep in the swing. So if you're coming down steep, if you look in the downswing, if you film from down the line and you look at your swing and the club is kind of more vertical, it's pointing inside the golf ball at this point in the downswing. That's what's considered to be steep. So you got to get that club to where it's shallowing out so that you can continue to rotate into impact. Because if you're steep, what's going to happen, because we're good athletes, to get this club to come back down on plane, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of stand up out of it. And when we stand up, we have to flip the club at the golf ball, and that makes it, that adds loft to it. So look at those pieces in your swing. That's going to be the move to work on shallowing out the club, squaring the face earlier so you can get forward shaft lean impact. That's going to be the move course on the website and working through those drills. So that's what I would recommend for you. As far as hitting a fade is concerned, the face just has to be open to your club path. So to hit a fade, I would recommend swinging to the left with an open face. That's what's going to give you a fade. That's what causes you to hit a fade. So feel like you're kind of swinging across the ball and with the face opened up so that you can basically cut across it and hit the fade. Overdo it. Hit some huge slices. Get to where you're comfortable with that, and then tone it down a little bit to get that fade that you're looking for. And if you're looking for more videos on how to hit the fade, use the search engine on the website. And that will you'll have tons of videos on basically where Clay's demonstrating how to hit the fade. But basically what it comes down to is swinging out to in, so cutting across the ball this way. If my target is straight ahead of me here, I'm cutting across the ball that way, and my face is opened up. That's an extreme version. That's going to be like a slice. But do that, get comfortable with the slice, then tone it down to get that fade shot. All right, so Mark T, so we got a few more questions here, about 5 minutes left. Mark T says, at the point of club ball contact, is the left leg completely straight, fully bent, or in a process of straightening? This was difficult to tell from the video. So it's actually in the process of straightening. It's not going to be fully straight in that impact position. Usually it completely straightens out just after the straight line release. So you're coming into impact, you're going to have a little bit of bend in that lead leg. And then as you're continuing to work that club up through the ball, it's going to be straightening out. And there's going to be usually there's going to be about a tiny amount of bend in it at the straight line release. And then right after the straight line release is where you'll see it completely straighten out. And again, go look at tour players swing, slow motion swings on YouTube, and you'll see that exact same thing. There's a great video on the website. I believe it's in the straight line release section. I believe it's how to release the club with the legs or something like that. Search that video, and Clay kind of goes over in that video how that lead leg is working. It's going to answer your question exactly there. So, yeah, at impact, it's there's going to be a little bit of bend in it, but it is straightening. It's going from more of a cocked, a more flexed position to a straightening out position, but it's not completely straight until just after the straight line release, typically. So David C says, please explain correct location of hands and club head in backswing when club is parallel to the ground in line with the toes. So let me read that again. Please explain correct location of hands and club head in backswing when club is parallel to the ground in line with the toes. So I think he's talking about in kind of the takeaway. So for you or for everybody, it can be a little bit different. So you're going to look at tour players, and you're going to see a lot of different things. So you're going to see if you're looking at from this position, so parallel to the ground, that's typically what you're going to see is kind of in line with the pocket here. Club parallel to the ground. Hands are going to be more out in this area. If you're looking at from this position, kind of pretty much right down the target line is a good place to be. But if you're a little bit outside the hands, more out here, that's completely fine. You're a little bit inside, that's completely fine as well. You're going to see a lot of difference there. If you look at Ricky Fowler, right? He brings the club, Jason Day. He's bringing the club more outside. You look at Adam Scott, Rory McIlroy. They're pretty much dead in line, parallel to the target. If you look at a JB Holmes, he's going to have that club way inside. And there's really no difference, not much difference in what's happening at impact for all of them. They're all in great impact positions. It only really matters what's going on at impact. So if you bring the club a little bit more inside and you have great impact position, then that's completely fine. Focus on what's going on at impact and only change your takeaway if it improves what's going on at impact. So here's what bringing the club too far outside the hands can do. For bringing the club too far outside, what can happen is you can get too much momentum going that way, and you can swing too much from the inside, or you get too vertical and you just kind of chop down in the golf ball. A lot of times what you see is people, they bring that club more outside the hands, and it helps them kind of drop it down and shallow it out. The opposite is true if you bring the club too far inside. So if you bring the club too far inside, a lot of times you'll have momentum kind of going that way in the downswing, which kind of makes you chop down into the ball. You could bring it back too far inside and then swing too far inside. So I'd only just change anything. I always tell people, do what comes naturally to you in the takeaway. The only thing I would say is just try to be nice and wide with it. Because if you just pick up the club like this, look how far my club has gone, but my shoulders haven't turned at all. So if you get that club to that same kind of position and you use your shoulders more, get nice and wide, look how much more my shoulders have turned here. So that's the only thing I would say that's really, really important about the takeaway is really just making sure that you get a nice wide turn. Now, if you are just picking up the club and you still get a big shoulder turn, you still generate lag in the downswing, then that's completely fine too. It's all about what's happening at impact and making that the best thing possible. So as far as what's correct and what works best for you, that's based on you. That's you got to look at what's going on at impact, what you're struggling with at impact, and work out to the technique from there. And usually the takeaway is not something that affects impact that much. All right, so last question here, right at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We'll take one more question from Ryan N. Ryan N says, is there a good drill to stop hooking driver and iron shots? So there's lots of great drills for that. I'll tell you to go to the stop hooking section, it's never hook again section on the website. So if you go to the house icon at the top of the page, that's going to take you to the home page. You scroll down, never hook again. There's going to be the videos that you want to go through. But basically what causes a hook is just a club face that is closed to your club path. Usually if you're hooking shots, it's from swinging too much into out with a closed club face. So you may want to feel like you're kind of swinging out to in with an open club face to calibrate that essentially. So that's what I'd recommend working on. Go to the never hook again section and work through those courses. So thanks everybody for joining me in the office hours. We'll be back here. We won't have office hours tomorrow. Just to remind you, no office hours tomorrow. We'll be back here on Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time to answer your questions. So thanks again for joining me. Hopefully you all have a great holiday weekend if you're celebrating. Be safe out there, and I'll talk to you next time.